Welcome back to another episode of the Millennium Live podcast. We have a great partnership series, and we are on our way to 250 episodes, which will hit in 2024. So I want to take this time to thank our listeners for their support and generosity of making our podcast the success that it is. And it's up to our members and our great partners. We have a great partner with us again today. I'm so happy to continue the AI-powered ITOps chat with Jason Walker. He is the Chief Innovation Officer at BigPanda. Welcome back, Jason.
Hey, Connor. Good to see you again.
Great to see you. And I do want to make note that you were the Chief Technology Officer when we did speak last time on the podcast. You've changed now to you're now the Chief Innovation Officer. So just a quick question for you. Is there any difference, with your role? Is there a change in focus for you in terms of growth and being innovation and changing perhaps some strategies?
Yeah, it's a great question because, titles come and go. The way a startup works, and definitely at BigPanda, we're always looking for good people, and we're constantly in growth mode. And of course, in this business, especially with generative AI coming into the market, we know there's a ton of disruption, and innovation is going to be a core focus. And it's really been something that I'm super passionate about. At the same time, we added to our executive staff with a CTO who came from 3 previous startups in our office out in Tel Aviv, Israel. And we found Oded, really good guy. I interviewed him with Assaf, our CEO, and our EVP of R&D out there, Leon. We all got together and said, hey, we got to bring this guy on board. But, the startup industry, the good people are hard to find. And it made a lot of sense because he's got a deep engineering background in cybersecurity and a few other places that is really going to help our team out there level up their engineering across the board. I was happy to bring him in, and then I retained all the same direct reports and my field CTOs, and now I've been kind of blessed to have a rapid prototyping team assigned to me with a principal AI architect and just a ton of real hungry people from all parts of the company. Sales, engineering, solution architects are really getting together a team that's going to try to move us forward as quickly as we can, as safely as we can, because we're super mission critical for our customers. They use us to, watch their services. We're the operations tier for them. So we've got to innovate with some discipline. And I think that's really what I'm looking forward to. And what, I've been doing it now since June, really. We kicked off with our first Gen AI feature. We beat the rest of the market, and now we formalized it, and we're expanding the team so that we can continue to move quickly.
Well, that's awesome, and congratulations on the role and bringing in new talent, which is always very important for growing companies. And we talk a lot about talent and the importance of that and leadership. In pretty much every industry that we have, which is healthcare, cybersecurity is a big one, and of course, in the digital enterprise. So happy to have you back as Chief Innovation Officer. So, Jason, some of the last things that I want to brief the audience on, in case you either are excited to listen to another episode with BigPanda or may have missed the first one. Last episode, we talked a lot about the current state of generative AI, especially with those ITOps teams who are struggling to keep up with those flood of incidents, and how generative AI is becoming that necessary tool, really, to make incidents response definitely faster, more accurate, and more consistent. And of course, dabbled in some of the ways to best apply AI to ITOps to get that value that you're looking for. So bringing in BigPanda and the generative AI tools. Having tested a lot of large language models, so your team has certainly determined that combining that open AI with that rich data provides the most accurate results and the most valuable results. So I want to talk a little bit about the importance of having clean, and enriched data for reliable results. Jason, could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. There's a ton of talk about data and generative AI and kind of the more engineering aspects to it, the data science aspects to it. And that's definitely useful if you're in a marketing team, or you're in a field where I like to say close is good enough, or you can get incremental gains by getting slightly better. Like if you're at if you provide music, you're at Spotify, let's say, and you're trying to serve up the next song to somebody, hoping that they'll like it, and maybe there's a thumbs up, thumbs down. Close is good enough. If you get a slightly better recommendation, you go from Taylor Swift to I don't know, some Korean pop band, and somebody likes it, then all right, you've done a pretty good job with your AI. And maybe you use generative AI to look at their social media posts and try to recommend songs to them. It's a very different endeavor in operations, where minutes of downtime cost lots of money and can ruin brand reputations. And so our application of generative AI has to be with precision and with a definite eye on getting it right, or empowering that team that is trying to keep those services running with the right information at the right time. And that's our first feature, automated incident analysis, which got into some root cause speculation. It gave a great summary based on the alert data and the topology data that we inherited from them, that we ingested and processed on our side. But that data comes from all over an organization. And I was chatting today with one of my I was slacking, of course, the modern language of business, communication medium of business, with Alex Page, who's our principal AI architect. And we're talking about the challenges around it, because nobody has perfect data. Everybody has their data in unstructured, semi-structured, and structured formats. And in IT operations, there's often data silos here, there, and everywhere. And we realized something as we were talking about the next few features that we're going to prototype for the company. We realized that it's vitally important to use generative AI and use a good GPT or a pre-trained model. And it's really important to have a great architecture to that, and make sure it's responsive and does what you need it to do. But even more important than that, and kind of as the higher level mission for our team, is it's presenting that LLM with an accurate representation of the organization that we're trying to help. And that gets into their services topology, that gets into what is good and bad and everything in between from an observability standpoint, what their org structure is, who owns what at that company, what their remediation procedures are. How do we accurately represent all of the aspects of that organization to the LLM so that it can process that and do what it does to generate a root cause analysis, or at least point the way, triangulate that problem in some way to get the operations team a few steps further down towards remediation, and do that every time. And that representation of the organization in data that we feed the LLM, that is such a poorly understood thing, because it's always been, we have teams that are trained on rules-based systems, and they configuration and transforms and a million other ways to kind of massage things into some semblance of reality. Well, actually getting that semblance of reality and how things actually work, that is the job. That is 90% of the work of applying generative AI effectively.
Right. So I want to get into some of the practical outcomes of Gen AI, and being that the mission, some of the things that you're trying to solve at BigPanda, automatically identify those actionable alerts and proactively prevent incidents, and ensuring, of course, the highest service available. Someone like you, Jason, we talked a little bit and highlighted it on the last episode, but being a customer first of BigPanda, being Activision-Blizzard for 10 years. What's some of the ways that now you're seeing Gen AI helping those IT ops teams out there?
I think we're running a prototype right now with a major hotel chain, and they've done some of the hard work of capturing their incidents in 10 Slack channels, where they have 10 vital services that they support with their web app and their booking system and all of their scheduling and reservation systems. All of the incidents that come in, all the alerts, they go to one of these 10 Slack channels. And they've captured all of the remediation steps right there. And every time they actually approve a remediation step, someone blesses it and says, yes, you're allowed to go take that action to try to restore service or to prevent a service from going down. That's all in there in these Slack channels, but it's all unstructured. It's all engineer A talking to operator B, talking to CS representative C, and talking about this incident. And these, one of these vital services that they have is down at a given time. And they're a really good organization, very successful economically, financially. They're a very well-run business, but they don't have a way to use all that data. And they don't have a way to actually take that and turn it into proactive recommendations. And so what we're doing right now, and kind of what I talked about earlier, is we're taking those Slack channels, we're taking all the chats that were made there, and we're training an LLM on how to remediate those services given the indications. And what we have to do there is actually marry up the alert data that is coming in from all of their monitoring systems all over the universe. We have that in BigPanda, and we've enriched it, we've processed it, we've correlated it, we've deduplicated it, we've filtered it. And so we've got this package. Here's how the incident started, and here's everything we know about the services involved. And then we have this conversation that takes place around remediating that issue. And now I can take about a year's worth of those conversations, and I can pull out and feed to an LLM all of the relevant bits of how did they remediate the service, what was the actual root cause of it, and how did they diagnose and triangulate that root cause to figure out there's what's broken and here's how we're going to fix it. And then I feed it a new incident with one of those major services and say, please predict the remediation steps to diagnose and remediate this issue. And that's a real world scenario, a prototype that we're co-developing with one of our customers, just so that we can get in there, solve a real world problem for them, and do it in an entirely new way. Something that they never, organizations don't patrol their Slack channels or their Teams chat for relevant insights. That's all, it's all in CMDBs and databases somewhere. That's actually not true. A whole lot of that, the tribal knowledge, is captured in these conversations as people try to work through problems, because the real serious incidents, and everybody who's worked in incident management for a little bit knows this, they're the things you didn't predict, the failures that you didn't anticipate with your monitoring or your architecture or your capacity management or anything else. And what is happening in these conversations is pure gold from a organizational insights perspective. You really get to understand how things work. And there's so much that people are holding up here that they're putting into documents, they're putting into conversations. Now that's all able to be tapped into with a few intelligent embeddings and fine tunings and training of LLMs. You can now take that and really convert it into, well, here's a proposition for you in real time in a couple of seconds on how you can remediate this issue that last time it took you 4.5 hours. That's a real world use case where we're already seeing great results with them. It's definitely a time of great change in the wide world of IT ops, but it's something that people are starting to figure out, wow, this can really change the way I do everything.
Right. That's incredible. It's allowing that to happen in such in almost in real time, and the power of automation is really incredible. And
Yeah.
I could even ask you a question on how Slack is, as a technologist, that's changed the game for in not only the ways you communicate, but how you can easily see incidents all together at the same time.
Absolutely. We used to ingest emails from companies because they used to send alerts to email, and they used to there's all sorts of interesting things that used to happen in email. And I don't know if you've noticed, but most of my conversations have moved from email to either, all day I'm either on Slack or I'm in Zoom. And
Right.
you're a Microsoft guy, you're in Teams or you're in Teams. But it's pretty much the medium that we're all swimming in right now is Slack and Zoom calls. And of course, there's a transcription of this that is also mineable for all sorts of unstructured data that, with the right processing and the right approach to it, where you use multiple LLMs, you tell an LLM to find in the transcript, let's say for this conversation, find the relevant points in this and distill them down to, a 3-paragraph summary, and eliminate all the fluff between you and me as we talk. And all of a sudden, somebody that wants to watch this podcast can take that transcript and distill down exactly what I said. And you can even ask the LLM for relevant insights. Well, you can do that with any meeting. Let's say a meeting of 5 software engineers who are talking about the architecture of a specific system or component of a service at their organization, how it's interacting with the network. All of a sudden, I can take the transcript of that Zoom call with these really intelligent, domain experts, specialists in their areas, and I can turn that into topology information. That's hugely powerful. And we see it even internally to BigPanda. We have an operations channel where some of our CI/CD tools, they're constantly publishing every change that we make to BigPanda, every little performance upgrade, every update that we do. And all day, every container that gets reinstantiated, destroyed and recreated, everything that we do is now captured in the Slack thread. And then we have a separate one where we keep all of our notifications from our own alerting systems to keep our services running. Well, both of those now can be ingested, pushed to an LLM, and used to in our case, we recently had a very small incident, ended up not impacting any of our customers. We just put an LLM against that and said, please complete a root cause analysis for this, and give me post-mortem action items for the relevant team members. And boom, there it is. It's done for you. And that, we cut out all of the middlemen in that. And even if the LLM isn't 100% precise, it's a great start for anybody who's working on those sets of problems. And for anybody who wants to catch up, let's say, on what happened with that incident. Like a few months ago, we had an incident that impacted 2 of our customers. And the sales reps and the account managers wanted to go talk to the customers. Hey, sorry about that. Here's what happened, and here's what we're doing about it. And that's, sales 101. That's kind of how you manage accounts when incidents happen, because they do. That entire process was made so much easier by just having the rep go through that incident Slack channel and rapidly summarize what had happened, and then go through the postmortem and summarize, here's what we're doing about it. All of a sudden, that is just a almost touchless experience for everybody involved.
It's awesome, isn't it? It actually really is incredible. And to just type in a certain a word like Slack or generative AI, and you can provide a timestamp of the conversation, and it'll take you right to the point where you need the information. So, Jason, I want to switch gears a little bit. Of course, talk a little bit about the future. This is exciting stuff. And I understand it that you'll be participating in a roundtable webinar discussion about the top 5 AIOps predictions for next year, 2024. You'll be joined along. You're the CEO, Assaf Resnick, and I think it's moderated by Joe McKelvey, the VP of Marketing and Product Marketing. And you're bringing in that customer experience as well of Nicholas Hatch from Ciena. So could you briefly talk a little bit about perhaps some of these predictions and a little, maybe even a sneak peek into what we'll hear from the webinar?
Predictions. Well, I can't steal the entire show and give you the inside scoop on what we're going to present there. It's actually, I can tell you a little bit about how hard it is, because every year this industry has changed for the past 20 years. But the pace of change this year is just so much more. the White House just released an executive order around AI and LLMs, and governments everywhere, and the technology leaders everywhere they're both immensely aggressive in kind of using it and leveraging it for business purposes. And there's a whole cohort of people, often the same people, who are also incredibly cautious about how it's going to be used. And so I think what you'll hear at that session is definitely things are going to be changing very, very quickly, and people are going to be finding ways to use AI that right now, are still very much in the prototype phase. Definitely, we see the major providers, the hyperscalers, as well as OpenAI now. They are expanding their service offering and specializing in different skill sets. You're seeing massive changes in the way people develop software. You're seeing the whole balance of engineering disciplines. I was just talking about this with our CTO and CPO this morning. The whole balance of what you need in terms of architecting, coding, UI, UX, and data engineering specifically, as well as AI itself as a discipline. The mix of resources that you're going to want to have at a startup company or at any company is changing because the workloads have gone down. Some of the more brute force problems are getting solved very capably by Copilot, Code Interpreter, and a whole host of other technologies. But you're also going to see organizations, and we've seen this already with BigPanda, when it comes to their data and the privacy of that data, especially in the more compliance-heavy verticals, you're definitely going to see companies start to come out with their rules and their legal procedures and their requirements for how their data can be handled. And that, I think, is, that's to get AI effective at the enterprise. And to get it in place, but in place safely. And it's really funny, we just talked about Slack and how, Slack has kind of taken over the workplace. Slack and Teams is pretty good. But Slack is the more fun and definitely the more startup friendly version of those two products. But chat has taken over, and it was really interesting. I don't know if you were around when it was being adopted by large enterprises, but I remember at my last company how Slack came into the enterprise, and it came in from the ground floor up. People just started using it. They started installing it within the firewall, inside the network environment. And legal and security kept saying, no, we can't do that. And then all of a sudden somebody pointed out, hey, I know you're saying that, security, but I noticed you have a Slack channel for security, and the legal team as well had an internal Slack channel. And all of a sudden they were like, yep, I guess it's here. We have to figure out a way to make it work. And I think that's very much what's happening right now with AI. I don't know about you, but I use ChatGPT every day to do all sorts of things, from taking care of my daughters and researching colleges for them, to doing my job and prepping for podcasts like this. But it is taking enterprises by storm from the ground up. And then there is the more serious applications of LLMs in specific domains with specific purposes. And those take a lot longer. But I think what you're going to see over the next year, prediction-wise, is everybody's going to start using it. And it's not going to be always pre-baked and built into a software product. In a lot of cases, it will just be demanded by the operational tier, by the actual first line individual contributors who need, they want to do their job better. And in the case of ITOps, I think that's going to be LLMs to start doing some of that. They're going to start running their analyses on what they're doing and how their job is running, and what tools are most effective to accomplish which things. And as a BigPanda, Chief Innovation Officer, I'm actually very excited about that, because our community has been very, very positive about what our software does. And finally, that word can get out, beyond the marketing that we do. people are going to start talking to people and referencing kind of, hey, what works in this situation? And that's where we've got a real leg up, I think, on other companies, because we've always been focused on pragmatic use of technology, not just, hey, this is shiny and new, but this is something that actually works to help you do your job better. And that I think is something that I'm looking forward to over the next year.
Yeah. Well, that was a great answer. You didn't spill out any of the excitement around this discussion. It'll certainly be great. We'll have, I don't know if some of our members have any interest in attending. I know there we have some CIOs and CTOs that do regularly listen to the podcast. So maybe we'll provide some information regarding when that is and how to access it.
Yeah.
But Jason, I can't let you go without our great crystal ball question. Speaking of not only 2024, but because this technology has been around and it seems to have been taking off now this year, as we've talked about it. But what the future holds, I mean, this is technology that has so many possibilities, and where it's going today is going to have a huge impact on how it looks tomorrow. So I'm just curious, as somebody as yourself who has been around and has seen technology transform over the years, in about 5 years, where do you see AI and the role it plays in changing enterprises and how they effectively solve problems, and how you see ITOps in the future?
Yeah. I think I'll start with the last part of that. ITOps in the future is, there's a couple of things happening there. One is that SRE and DevOps are coming from the left to try to handle problems before they even occur. And there's a whole bunch of very smart people and great tools in that space that are starting to reach their limitation in terms of small teams trying to operate on large enterprises. As services age and the components that make them up go into more of a run mode as opposed to a build mode, the DevOps component moves more towards dev and the next thing and less towards ops. SREs are kind of the glue that keeps things together. And ITOps teams, which have traditionally, they've been in place for ops forever, and they do a very, very important job. They are starting to adopt some of those SRE methodologies. So they're going to move more towards engineering and more towards orchestration, automation, and towards automation throughout the life cycle, from events all the way through to incidents and the collaboration, notification, communication around those. I think you're going to see ITOps get more and more capable there, because the centralized ops team is a very, very necessary component when you have distributed services that have interdependencies that no single SRE or DevOps team can really take advantage of. What does that mean for their use of Gen AI? Generative AI is a way to democratize a lot of those engineering skills. And you can easily train yourself to use an LLM to perform something useful in terms of automation, or to tell you how to use a tool. If I don't know Ansible, but I need to write an Ansible playbook from a run book that I have, I can do that in a few seconds now. With the right input data, I can prompt an LLM to actually develop that for me. And then, well, hey, why should I do that by hand one at a time? Let's just do it all the way across all of our run books right now and get those in place, and then iterate on them periodically based on the new instance that occur and the historical intelligence that I'm developing. So I think ITOps is going to go through a transformation over 5 years, which that's a pretty long time horizon, where they're getting deeper and deeper, better and better, and the expectations for the people using those services go up and up and up, and it becomes like power and water and every other utility where no, these just work all the time. And we've seen that. They're great teams and they're doing very important work. When it comes to generative AI itself and how it's affecting the enterprise, I would say I'm just starting to see now the peak of inflated expectations, and people are coming to grips with some of the limitations of LLMs and some of the false impressions that people have of them. They aren't good at things they haven't been trained on, and they have a lot of trouble generalizing. They can't say, hey, that's a small fish and that's a big fish, and the small fish is going to grow and evolve into this big fish. And then they look at a small dog and they say that small dog will grow into a large dog. They actually have trouble transferring the knowledge, and maybe in that case painting a picture of each step of that growth and how they evolve. They're actually not really good at transferring from one domain to another, and that when they haven't been trained on it. If they've only been trained on, let's say, aquatic animals, very abstract example, they actually have trouble extending that over to mammals, because the life cycle is different. Eggs versus live births, and fur, and there's just a million differences there, and that detail matters for them. It matters for their accuracy. And so I think right now we're hitting that peak, and now comes the hard work of we're going to go through the trough over probably the next few months, because I think it's going to be a faster cycle, and then we're going to start hitting a plateau. And when it comes to generative AI, all of the big companies, all the monsters out there in technology are absolutely committed to building it into their product roadmaps. There is one thing, though, strategically, that prevents them from moving as fast as they might, and that is the business models that they've established in most of these spaces are very profitable. And if you look at earnings, like they're coming through pretty strong, and they have been for a while. They are conservative when it comes to disrupting those very successful business models. And so I think what you'll see is over the next 5 years, at first they'll be chipping away at the edges and building some capability on the edges of their platform. But it'll take 2 to 3 years before, let's say, Google replaces their entire landing page for search with simply an AI assistant who no longer do you look at a series of results based on their search algorithm. It is now a series of back and forth questions to determine what you really want between you and the Gen AI, and then it gives you a very precise set of matches. That is still, I think, 2 to 3 years off, but it's going to come. And at the large enterprise, it's going to invade every function. The same way, you probably don't remember BlackBerries, but
I did have one.
All right, good to go. You're not as young as I thought. It's amazing what smartphones have done to the modern business, and everything that you do on your mobile now is kind of taken for granted. And I expect that much productivity out of my teams based on the knowledge that, hey, you all have smartphones, so I can reach you at any time. And I try not to do that. But if you need to look at something, it's not a matter of, getting to your laptop. I don't care if you're in Timbuktu. If we need to figure something out together, we can do that instantly. Well, now there's about 4 more 100% increases in terms of productivity that will be expected, because I know that you can use a generative AI to look up anything that you need. And I just presented to my sales team on, you should never go into a call with a prospect anymore, with a potential customer, and not know how their business is doing in pretty good detail, and not know their latest IT initiatives. You should have that going on immediately. And actually, you should have a pretty good background in everybody involved that you're talking to. Because all of that is maybe 30 minutes of work. It's your prep work just shrank immensely. And so 5 years is tough to predict. I think we'll be on probably, GPT. They might abandon the numbering system. We'll see probably 4.0 turbo in the next few days. And I think, are we going to see an AGI? That's you didn't ask that question. The next 5 years could see some massive improvements, especially now that the coding workload has been reduced so much. Just through the use of LLMs, we can develop new LLMs that much faster. So yeah, pretty broad strokes. ITOps is a small piece of that, and I think what you'll see is their adoption of generative AI to do all sorts of useful work in the event to incident, and really bringing together all of those silos in terms of change, event management, the collaboration in Slack, the documentation, problem management, and other spaces. I think those will start to coalesce into one just kind of operations function, and it will be less specialized and much more capable because now you're bringing together all that fragmented data and knowledge into one system. And I think that's really where we're headed. Is we've industrial revolution style broken things out into real specific domains. I think generative AI is going to collapse that in again and let people be generalists again, rather than laser focused specialists who really are siloed in a lot of ways in terms of what they're allowed to work on.
Jason, this has been an incredible chat. You're just a wealth of knowledge on just technology alone, and it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I want to leave it here. But thanks for coming on the podcast again to talk about generative AI, and especially how BigPanda is playing a role in this with its solutions, and how it's necessary, especially to make things faster and more accurate and more consistent. So I think without a doubt, there's got to be a part three. What are we on, part two? We'll do a part three next year on any of the updates, and maybe some of these predictions that you might be talking about soon if they've come true. So
you can keep me honest when we meet again. But yeah, it's been great talking to you, and thanks a lot for the conversation.
Of course. And I feel like if you did own a BlackBerry, then you definitely have the capability of talking technology trend and digital transformation. Interestingly enough, BlackBerry is a cybersecurity partner with us now with their cybersecurity products, which is really interesting. So
yeah, they transformed their entire business. I met a few of them at a conference I went to recently. It's really interesting that arc that company names go through. Yeah. Research in motion. Great company.
Yes, of course. But yeah, Jason, take care. Thanks a lot.
Good seeing you.